Hello and welcome to Best Binocular Reviews. My name is Jason. In this video, I just wanted to show you some sample footage that I managed to capture with the AGM ASP-Micro TM160 thermal imaging monocular. Please note that this video is intended to be used and indeed viewed in conjunction with my full review, a link to which I've added to the description down below. So to begin with, I just want to go back to some footage that I managed to capture on one of the very first times that I used the device at nighttime, when I managed to convince my family to come out with me to go on a night walk. There was a full moon, so we didn't really need to have a torch, but at the same time it was dark. So along with us, as you can see, we had our cat as well as our dog. Now the cat isn't as brave and obviously just came out at the start of the walk and stayed behind with me, whilst my daughter and my wife as well as the dog disappeared off into the distance. Now, whilst we were hanging back, something really interesting happened. I happened to be filming the cat, and then all of a sudden I noticed she was looking back at something. And then, there you have it, a mouse comes wandering through. Now, as you can see, the cat immediately picks up onto it and heads towards it. But as soon as the mouse stays still, the cat can no longer sort of find it. So I was sniffing around trying to get closer and closer to it. But the mouse, as you can see, is staying perfectly still. So the cat gets closer to it, but has lost it. So as you can tell, it is dark because otherwise she would have definitely have seen that. And I don't know what flies past there, but it's something, I think it might be a bat or something because there are quite a few bats around. But then as you can see, I just changed the function bit. And then as soon as the cat moves away, the mouse starts hopping around and moving away again. And then once again, the cat picks up on that noise and starts following it. And then once again, as soon as the mouse stops moving, my cat stops being able to find it. Now bear in mind, the grass initially was quite short, about ankle deep, but then as it hits into these bushes over here, it's really thick. And had I been using standard a night vision device, I definitely wouldn't have been able to capture this footage. So this is definitely gives a really good example of how thermal night vision can be advantageous over standard night vision devices. Right, so next up, I just wanted to demonstrate the 4 different color palette settings that come with the ASP-Micro. The white hot palette highlights white as being the hottest color in the view, and the higher the temperature, the lighter the color is. Then you get black hot, where the higher the temperature is, the more black the color is. Then you get a fusion palette, whereby white is hot, and then yellow is slightly cooler, then goes to red, sort of medium, pink, and then purple are the coldest colors in the view. And lastly, you get the red hot palette, where the higher the temperature is, the redder the color is. Now each of these have their own advantages and disadvantages over each other, so which one you use and which one is best will depend on the ambient conditions and the time of day, how dark it is, and a lot of other considerations to take in mind. I just found by cycling through them, I would get one that worked best for me in that particular situation and would go with that. So while stars were invisible, I was actually able to pick up the full moon in the night sky using the monocular, which is impressive as I guess the heat you are seeing is being reflected off it from the sun, which is on the other side of the Earth. So technically, you could say that the TM160 has a range of over 363,000 kilometers. But in all seriousness, this does show that the monocular's usable range largely depends on ambient conditions, how large the object is that you're looking for, how much the object's temperature varies in comparison to the environment around it, as well as the level of detail that you want or need to see. AGM does supply an official table of measurements, which I have included in the review, and which I did find to be largely accurate based on my sort of usings and findings using the device. So in the video below, you will see that I'm viewing some donkeys which are about 200 meters away from me, and initially they just look like spots in and amongst the trees. But as they come closer, they become more and more recognizable, I guess, and then finally you're able to identify what they are as they come much closer to you. Now, one of the more interesting encounters I've had so far with this device demonstrates the usefulness of being able to see with heat energy rather than any sort of light energy. We have a fair number of hedgehogs around our property, but to find them in the long grass is usually quite difficult. However, with the thermal monocular, I was able to walk out there, and within 2 or 3 minutes, I managed to see this glowing ball in the long grass. Now, I know the detail's pretty low, but just remember, I'm looking through thick, tall grass, and so the fact that I can even see the hedgehog is an achievement in itself, and certainly much more than I would have been able to achieve using traditional night vision. Now, as these thermal imaging monoculars use heat energy to see and not light, they obviously work equally well during the day as they do at nighttime. However, it is at nighttime when our vision is impaired where they become most useful. This clip I obviously recorded in the day, but I wanted to demonstrate a few things. Firstly, just to point out that the ASP-Micro can actually be connected via an app and Wi-Fi to your phone, and thus in this video I'm actually recording directly onto my phone, and I've got the monocular actually set up on a tripod quite close to the bird feeder, and so in some situations this could become very useful. Also, just to point out that the line that you can see on the left hand side is actually the window. And as you can clearly see, the window from the inside of the house is actually quite warm, whereas all the light coming from the outside is quite cool. Also interesting to point out that when the window was closed, the actual bird was invisible to the device. So even though we could clearly see it with our eyes, the ASP-Micro was only seeing the heat bouncing off the window and not the actual bird behind it. Right, so there you go. I do hope that this video has given you some sort of idea as to what you can expect when it comes to the recording capabilities of this AGM ASP-Micro thermal imaging monocular. But as I said at the start of the video, for the full review that contains tons and tons more information, including my thoughts and opinions whilst using the device, its design, comparisons with it against other similar devices, and a whole bunch of other information, please refer to the description down below where I have a link to the full review on the BBR website. As well as that, if you have any thoughts, ideas, opinions, or whatever, please feel free to use the comment section and I'll do my very best to get back to you. As always, if you can spare a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. And on top of that, if you like what you see, please remember to subscribe to the channel just to be sure that you can see more of what I produce in the future. So other than that, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you again next time. Cheers for now.